How can we connect tech-obsessed kids with faith, with the Word, and with discipleship? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and I have a wonderful repeat guest for you today. His name is Allen Brokken. He's a husband and father to a homeschooling family whose children have grown and gone off on their own adventures. So by day, he's a technology strategist, and by night, he writes award-winning children's fiction and tells a dad joke or two on social media. Welcome back, Allen. It's always a delight to feature you on Flourish-Meant.
I'm excited to be here. I thought this was going to be a fun conversation to have.
Let's focus on parents who really want to disciple these children who are often left out in children's ministry. What can parents begin to do to help their kids feel edified and included in the gospel stories, in the journey of faith, in discipleship?
Well, I think one of the big things is helping the children understand that this thing they're able to do, right? They are crafty. They have a thing they can do, whether it's, something like sewing, or maybe they're a gifted electrician, who knows? But giving them opportunities to use that gift to help others is a great way to connect those lessons together, right? This idea of service is a key aspect of the Christian life. And so being able to connect this idea that, hey, you can serve others with this. Now, I mean, there's a danger there. I've seen some parents, the child made this really great thing, whatever it might be. And then there's sort of this suggestion that they might give that away. Well, okay, maybe that first one that was awesome, we don't give away because that can break the child's spirit. On the other one, well, would you like to do that again? Here's some resources. Let's find someone who could benefit from that.
Are there communication differences between this type of child and the other children that are in ministry with them?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that can be really tricky with these kids is you can just see them check out, right? So you've got your thing going on at church, and their eyes glaze over, and they're just checked out. And it's because you're really doing one of two things. You're either overstimulating them with something that they just can't cope with, so they're done, they're out, and now you're not going to connect with them at all. Or the other side of it is they're maybe not overstimulated; they just think they're above it, right, to a certain extent. Like whatever's going on around them, they're too smart or too whatever to that. And so it's really important to notice when they've checked out, to be able to then start to talk to them about how do we correct for that? How do we bring you back into the fold?
When these children get that question, do they ever have trouble responding to that and knowing how to communicate how they feel?
Oh yeah, they don't know. Like in a lot of cases, they don't necessarily know they check out. Like, as I think I used the phrase earlier, "Are we done talking yet?" I brought that line up because I've had these kids tell me that over and over again. Like, "Are we done talking yet?" Because they want to get their hands on something. They want to go do something that's not just talking at them. And I think that's the other side of it, is if you can make it more of a discussion. One of the things about it is if you start reading the Bible and you're in that chapter where they're lining out all of the pieces in the tabernacle, or all of the pieces in the temple. And I know as an adult, I tend to kind of skip down the page pretty fast. Like, it's not, the number of cubits and all that's in there isn't necessarily my thing. And you as an adult that might not be into that can actually kind of skip over or move too fast or whatever. And it's at those times where it's like, I know this child is kind of like this. How about I give them that piece of paper? How about I give them a thing of, can you tell me how many different things were in? Like, I want you to listen right now and tell me how many different things we talked about, or what are the sizes of the things that we talked about, or what were the materials that were used. Like, giving them some leading questions before you get into those technical details actually goes a long way to keeping them engaged, because from their perspective, if they're really into building, they're going to listen to that and they're going to go, hey, how do I build with brass? What's that like? And all of a sudden you can see a child go off on a tangent that you didn't expect. I had one child that just became, maybe not because of this specific story, but over time had just become so enamored with blacksmithing. Like the idea of ironworking came up in a lot of different contexts. He learned how to build a forge, and built one himself. So I mean, these guys, he was an older teen, but it doesn't change the fact that a lot of times they can become inspired by this to go do something amazing.
So a few things that you can do for intentional engagement can mean the difference between this kid becoming a powerful resource in ministry as they grow into adulthood, or leaving the church altogether, can't it?
Yeah, and I think that's the real thing is helping a child see themselves in God's word. That my gifts, my abilities align to this is a big deal. I mean, I personally, I grew up in a family that had, some of my aunts and uncles were missionaries. There were pastors, evangelists. There were a lot of evangelistic people in my family, and I wasn't necessarily that person, right? Like I'm a technologist. That's what I do. I do technology. There was a lot of, well, I'm not doing my job like as a Christian. But on the other hand, as a technologist, I've enabled all kinds of people to do ministry they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise in me being this technical person. And so that's really where the insight came of what to do with these kids was this idea that, hey, if they can see, if at 5, 7, 10, this very craftsperson type child can look at that and go, hey, I could use this gift for God. I can use this gift to help others. I can use this. God made me to do this, as opposed to, well, why am I not able to evangelize? Why am I not able to prophesy, or whatever it may be that they're seen as the example? It changes the whole game for them because they see their place, right? And so that's why I'm really passionate about helping these children connect to God's word.
It occurs to me that parents or children's ministries can begin to help these kids engage in missions by asking them to problem solve, because these kids are natural problem solvers. They're going to want to help those who are in need. They're going to want to reach people with the truth who otherwise wouldn't access it. How can we begin to engage them in some of those hands-on activities as well?
Well, some of it depends on age, right? But one of the things that I did with my older kids, not necessarily out in the community, but could have been, well, no, we did some of this in the community with scouts too, was we had some projects where we had the kids design the solution, right? There was a community problem, there was a thing that the church had decided to be a part of, or the missions organization I was in, whatever, had decided to be a part of, and bringing a child with that skill into the decision making process, into the design process early on. And it could be as simple as, hey, we're gonna fix the sidewalks in this area, or we're gonna fix the garden in this area. Can you help us figure that out, right? And so to be able to give them that, engaging them in projects, if your church is helping with like a Habitat for Humanity project or some kind of works project that does require some thought, right? That isn't just a thing. I know one of the projects we ended up doing, that my kids had a lot of fun with was, we ended up building a retaining wall at a church camp. Like basically there was a big washout, and it was a real problem for the camp. And so like they really liked the idea of just getting to run the angle grinder that we were cutting metal with, right? Like it was just a fun thing for them to do. But to bring them into that, to be part of the solution, was a really big deal for them.
What are some other tips that you have for parents and children's ministry leaders regarding technically oriented kids?
Well, I think the big thing, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, was this idea of, hey, there's, so much of this brass or silver or those kind of details. Building stuff around that, and I would even say so much as, if you have that kid that's really stuck on the iPad, right? Like because we do have a lot of kids actually now that have literally grown up with one, right? Like you've got children that have never not had most of their day in front of the screen. Getting them completely off of that can be tricky. But on the other hand, if you can say, okay, build me the temple, and here's the spec. I'm reading this off to you. Start to spec that out inside Minecraft. That can go a long way to all of a sudden, oh, hey, wow, there's something here with the Bible. And you can see kids do that, whether it's the ark's another good one. There's lots of things in the Bible like that you can take this child and just say, can you build that for me, and see what they do with it, right? There are other tools. One people might not know about is there's a thing called Bricklink Studio, and so it's a way to build with Legos virtually, that then you can then know what pieces you need to build it in real life. And so that's kind of a neat way to say, hey, can you spec out the tabernacle or Noah's Ark or whatever in Lego bricks? And let's build that interactively. Now, oh, these are the pieces we need. Let's get that and build that. So there's lots of things like that you can look at of examples of the Bible where there was something that was built that has a lot of detail to it that you can give to this child and have them actually recreate it.
So how can people stay connected with the resources that you have to offer online and the books that you provide, because you have some wonderful adventure stories that are very engaging for this type of child as well.
Well, if you go to towersoflight.net/subscribe, you can subscribe to our newsletter. And about every other week, we send out something that might be of interest. So that's a free newsletter. You're happy to, like I said, enjoy the content we put out. And then we have our actual homeschool curriculum. And so this curriculum has basically 4 days of kind of standard language arts unit study, and then the fifth day there's a project for 26 weeks. So it's like a whole year, but it's also multimedia. So we have the Tower of Light audiobook player that can play the books for you while they follow along in the book, which is actually the most effective way to teach reading, is to read while listening. There's clear academic data that shows that children that learn to read while listening have improved vocabulary, reading speed, and comprehension over kids that are just kind of trying to follow along on the page. It's also a way that my own child who was struggling with reading got over the struggle, was being able to hear the words while they followed along.
I hope that all of you listening are better equipped to be a blessing to your technically oriented, very gifted children and those that you're in ministry to through your churches. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.